So breaking right now, the Illinois law banning the sales of assault weapons is now on hold. The downstate judge granted a preliminary injunction while several groups are suing the state over that ban. For now, gun stores can continue to sell those items.
A federal judge in Illinois blocks Illinois' assault weapons ban. Welcome to another installment of the Connecticut Gun Bench. Today's video is brought to you by P.A.N. Firearms, LLC. P.A.N. Firearms, your NRA certification and multifaceted gun training. You can reach us at 203-300-6343 or use our website at www.panfirearmsllc.com. As always, there'll be a link in the description box below. And if you like my channel, like my content, you can support me through the links in the description box below. Everything is appreciated, but let's talk about this. This comes literally days after Washington State invoked their assault weapons ban. A federal judge in Illinois has put a temporary, it's basically a preliminary injunction, a temporary hold on the enforcement of Illinois' basically their assault weapons ban. And I applaud this judge, because what did this judge do? Once again, Bruen strikes again. The judge mentioned Bruen in his ruling because Bruen does apply. But let's go ahead and get some context. Let me pull this up here.
There's any number of lawful uses of firearms. But even if you restrict it to just self-defense, the AR-15 is an excellent defensive weapon.
These are weapons of war that don't belong in civilian hands.
Mixed reactions tonight as a judge in southern Illinois temporarily blocks the state's assault weapons ban. The ban was signed into law by Governor Pritzker in January.
Casey Coronis is live in Des Plaines with the latest. Casey.
Anthony and Dawn, this comes a little over a week after another federal judge reached the opposite decision. Now legal observers expect it could go as high as the U.S. Supreme Court. A downstate judge on Friday ruled in favor of gun rights organizations named in a set of consolidated lawsuits that are currently fighting the Illinois assault weapons ban.
What Judge McGlynn ruled today was that the state may not enforce these bans pending the outcome of our lawsuits.
Dan Eldridge is the owner of Maxon Shooter Supplies in Des Plaines. He is also the president of Federal Firearms Licensees of Illinois, which is a plaintiff in those lawsuits. Eldridge says for him and many others, it's about protecting the constitutional rights of law-abiding citizens.
Any normal, rational human being finds violence and criminal misuse of firearms to be abhorrent. We simply have different views of how to reduce that sort of undesirable activity.
But others who have spent tireless months advocating for such a ban say they are disappointed in the injunction, including Ashby Beasley, who survived the Highland Park parade shooting last summer and was in Washington, D.C. earlier this month, meeting with lawmakers about passing a federal assault weapons ban.
The majority of Americans, as we see in poll after poll, report that gun safety legislation is at the top of voters' minds. It's critically important to most Americans who are tired of living in fear.
Today's decision is expected to be appealed. In a statement from a spokesperson from Governor Pritzker's office, they tell us that they are confident that the ban will ultimately be upheld as constitutional.
Okay, let's go in here. Federal judge grants injunction temporarily blocking enforcement of Illinois gun law. Now you got to remember, the governor was at odds with certain sheriffs in Illinois, different counties, because these sheriffs refused to enforce the law. So there were all button heads there. But now this judge has stepped in and definitely put a kibosh on Pritzker, I believe his name is out there. But a federal judge in Illinois has granted a temporary injunction blocking the enforcement of the gun law, which bans some semi-automatic rifles as well as high-capacity magazines. United States District Court for the Southern District of Illinois Judge Stephen Patrick McGlynn issued the ruling Friday afternoon, stating that the court must be mindful of the rights guaranteed by the Constitution, and you're damn right. Absolutely. The ban, signed by Democratic Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker in January, includes penalties for individuals who carries or possesses, manufactures, sells, delivers, imports, or purchases any assault weapon or .50 caliber rifle. Those who legally possesses a weapon under the law must register it with Illinois State Police. Yeah, right. Which is illegal, but that's a whole nother issue. The law also includes statutory penalties to people who sell, manufacture, delivers, imports, possesses, or purchases any assault weapon attachment or .50 caliber cartridge. And it's interesting how they're going after .50 caliber rifles, firearms. No one, and I mean absolutely no one, outside of combat, actual combat, has ever been killed by .50 caliber. Anything. So I don't know what the fascination with it is, but. And of course, any kits or tools used to increase the fire rate of semi-automatic weapons, ghost triggers, the echo triggers for, Forstec, stuff like that, are also banned, and the legislation includes a limit for purchase on certain magazines. Gun Owners of America, a plaintiff in the case, said in a statement that the ruling should send a clear message to Pritzker, quote, Governor Pritzker and his anti-gun cabal in the legislature thought they could steamroll the Second Amendment, and this ruling makes clear that they abused their authority and infringed on their citizens' rights. We look forward to continuing this fight, GOA Senior Vice President Eric Pratt said. McGlynn wrote in his ruling that he isn't attempting to minimize the damage caused when a firearm is used for an unlawful purpose, but said the law in question limited the Second Amendment rights of people in Illinois. But they never go after the people who use firearms in an unlawful manner. It's always they always pass laws that only the law-abiding will follow. I mean, it's interesting that his language here, but let's be 100. But Protect Illinois Communities Act did not just regulate the rights of the people to defend themselves. It restricted the right, and in some cases completely obliterated that right by criminalizing the purchase and sale of more than 190 arms, McGlynn wrote. The ruling from former President Trump's appointed Judge McGlynn came shortly after the United States District Court for the Northern District of Illinois Judge Lindsey Jenkins, appointed by President Biden, declined to block the law's enforcement. Well, that's very interesting. It's very interesting how a Trump appointee puts the injunction in, but a Biden appointee decides to block it. But it shows that these judges are not following the law and the Constitution as the ultimate authority on issues in this country. This Lindsey Jenkins just went along with the liberal ideal, the modern day liberal ideal. But Jenkins wrote in her ruling that the challenged restrictions on semi-automatic weapons and large capacity magazines are consistent with the nation's historical tradition of firearms regulation, namely the history and tradition of regulating particularly dangerous weapons. All weapons are dangerous. Anything that I watched a man, unfortunately, in Philadelphia get beaten to death by teenagers by a traffic cone. It's not the item, it's not the implement, it's the person behind it. This judge is once again running on emotion. There is no historical tradition of firearms regulation. Unusual and dangerous has nothing to do with in common use. They are two different things. There's nothing unusual and dangerous about an AR-15. If you want to use that kind of language, you could very easily expand that into saying anything is unusual and dangerous. It's so easy to do, but that's the mental gymnastics that they're going to use. But this is just a preliminary injunction which allows the gun stores to continue to sell these items. I'm sure they're going to be, every AR manufacturer in the country is probably cranking up to send all kinds of stuff there because it's going to get crazy there, which happens every time they try to do these things. All they do is sell more weapons. That's all they ever do. So, once again, it's something to watch. It's setting another precedent. Washington State, I'm sure, is watching this. But good old liberal, modern day liberal. I keep saying modern day liberal. Let me explain myself. And some of y'all saying, what do you mean? The modern day liberal is nothing like the classic definition of a liberal. the classic definition of a liberal. Bill Maher is a classic liberal. Joe Rogan is a classic liberal. These people running around calling themselves liberals today are nothing more than fascist authoritarians. And Inslee just falls right in with the rest of them. So does Pritzker and a number of other leaders who call themselves liberal. That's why I say the modern day liberal. I mean the modern day definition. But let's keep an eye on this and let's see where it goes. And once again, I applaud these Illinois, this judge, because once again, Bruen set the precedent. Heller actually set the precedent by, the language of in common use. But we're going to see how this goes going forward. But with a ton of these lawsuits out there for different reasons, especially for the Second Amendment, there's a lot going on. And unfortunately, it takes years to get anything through. But we can only hope. But let me know what you think. As always, you can leave your comments in the comment section below. And as always, any statements of violence or statements that lead to violence will be removed. Please like, share, comment, subscribe. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so you're notified the next time a video goes live. I will see you on the next one. Peace.